empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. It is here. It is the Monday. It is Michigan Monday. It is time to beat the Wolverines. We have gotten through all of the cupcakes, and we have not gotten a cavity. Thank God. So we are done with Maryland and Indiana and Antarctica State and all these other teams we played for last month. It's finally here. We get to play the Wolverines, a 2 versus 3 matchup, the highest since 06, 1 versus 2. We played them in 16. It was a high matchup. We've beaten them pretty much every time we've had these in the shoe. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. We're going to talk a little bit about the running back situations for both teams. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the good things we saw against Maryland. We're going to get into all of that and a lot more. We are cranking content like crazy on BuckeyeScoop.com right now. That being said, as always, we're thankful for you guys. We're grateful for you guys. You guys have a lot of options. Appreciate you guys enjoying our content. If you enjoy this, leave us a like. The likes are huge, huge, huge. I can't even describe to you how important they are to this video. Comment down below who needs to step up to beat the Michigan Wolverines this Saturday. I need names. Also, shout out where you guys are from, where you guys going to be watching from. What are your plans for the game? Do you watch it with people? Do you watch it by yourself? I know a lot. This is a different one. It's an intense one. I know a lot of people don't want to be around people because they get a little bit violent. So this is going to be a crazy one. But I appreciate you guys as always. That being said, I'm bringing in my good friend Nevadabuck, Nevada. How are you? Give me 1 second. How are you, Nevada?
I am doing terrific, man. Michigan week is the best week of the year. And, like I said, we've been waiting for this game all season long, and I can't wait. The Michigan team's been doing all this talking. They've provided Ohio State with so much bulletin board material. You've got the Michigan Disrespect running nonstop on the loop right now at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, and the boys are going to be they're going to be ready to go on Saturday, and I think it's going to be a good time. I think it's going to be a 3.5-hour party for Ohio State fans, and I can't wait.
Yeah, it was interesting. In 2012, Urban Meyer adopted a song called "It's Time for War" by LL Cool J, which I'd never heard before. It is one of those random ass songs that he loved, and in 2012, he played that song, which is like 3 minutes long, on a loop for the entire week in the Woody Hayes. I'm talking 24 hours a day, nonstop, loud as hell in every room. It was the most unbelievably obnoxious thing ever. It was like, when they try to play loud music to get, people out of a hostage situation or something. It was brutal. But we still won the game despite playing that terrible song over and over again. But in the Woody Hayes, it is fully decked out in Beat Michigan banners, Beat Michigan paraphernalia. The scout team guys are making their helmets into Wolverine helmets where they put blue tape on the helmets, complete with the yellow wing. I had to do that my freshman year. Thank God I never had to do that again because you have to do your own helmet. So it takes a hot minute to tape it and do all that, and you got to run around practice with the wing helmet on all week. So it's definitely a different breed, as a different intensity, and I think that given as much shit that has been talked by Michigan ever since the very first press conference after they whooped us last year in Ann Arbor, where Jim Harbaugh said that Ryan Day essentially was born on third base, and that he just kind of walked into a pristine program, and that he didn't really deserve all the recognition that he got because of the program Urban Meyer built. The players, they take note of that kind of stuff, especially Michigan's players, because they've been very mouthy over the last week. Nevada, how do you think that plays into the game? It's a bold strategy by Jim Harbaugh, but I think that, he had a lot of that pent up after, he's been the whipping boy of both Urban and Ryan Day in 2019. Then they were cowards and didn't play us in 2020. They finally get us in 2021, where everything seemed to break right for him. Aiden Hutchinson's senior day. Our guys, frankly, weren't tough. Our guys got their asses kicked up there. But what do you think the talking does? Does it help Ohio State? Does it help Michigan? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, look, I'm generally of the opinion that bulletin board material is kind of overblown. I think it's a thing more for the fans than for the players. But in this particular case, there's been so much talk by Michigan and really, really personal stuff about kind of the core of the program and about Ryan Day and about how, when you assert that you're tougher than the other program and that the other program's soft, I mean, that's about as personal as it gets for a football player. And I just think this game for Ryan Day, this is about legacy. This is about cementing his legacy at Ohio State. For Ohio State, it's about reclaiming kind of, top status in this relationship. And as you said, last year, everything went right for Michigan. Everything that could potentially have been played out went their way. And this year, there's a reason why they haven't beat Ohio State in Columbus since in over 20 years. And I think it's going to be a super hostile environment for them. Michigan, I mean, as bad as Michigan was last week against Illinois at home, Michigan's been terrible on the road. Just been absolutely abysmal road team. I believe they were, trailing at Rutgers, tied at Indiana, or the other way around. And I think they won at Iowa. Iowa, one of the worst teams that I've ever seen. So I think that they're walking into just the most hostile environment possible. I think it will be more high strung, more excitement than even the 1-2 game in 2006 because we lost last year. In 2006 we kind of felt like we had the upper hand. We had won in 2005. You guys had kind of done a really good job of kind of exercising the monkey in 2004. But this year we lost. We lost badly last year, and I think everybody wants to avenge that loss. Everybody feels like the 2020 game where Harbaugh completely wimped out and canceled the game, cost us a home game against Michigan, which I'll never understand how you can cancel a game like that and we lose the home game. And so it just alternates every year, and now we don't get the home game back because of that. I think we're going to take out a lot of frustration on Michigan, and they're going to go back to being who they are, which is they're a paper tiger. I've said it all year long. I'm convinced they're not that good, and I think Ohio State's going to hammer them on Saturday.
Yeah, I think Illinois exposed them. Illinois was really physical with them. There were some of the worst calls I've seen in my 38 years of watching football happen on Saturday to benefit Michigan. I think that the fix was in. I think that they wanted the Big Ten wanted Michigan to be undefeated against Ohio State. I think that they wanted that shining moment where the winner gets to go on to the championship and likely the playoff. And plus, it also enhances the chance that there could be a potential one-loss Michigan team that makes it into the college football playoff, because there's been absolute Armageddon happening all around. Tennessee's out. All these teams that were projected in last week are literally off the face of the earth this week. So there was a lot at stake for that Illinois game. It's a little sleepy game. It's a noon game. Everyone's looking forward to Ohio State, and it just seemed like there was some hijinks going on. And it just, the way that I've seen officials work and the way I know the inner workings of that, nothing surprises me. So the fact that Michigan was able to sneak out of there with a win and in the dark of the night, essentially, it was dishonorable. But it is what it is. So we have our undefeated matchup. Yeah, it is a good point about coming off of a loss. It's always interesting to kind of evaluate where the teams are the week before the game. I was fortunate. I won 4 games as a player, and 2 of those games were coming off of losses. So in 2004, we lost out at Purdue. Kyle Orton led a last-second drive, beat us, didn't play the whole game, came off the bench, scorched our defense, scored a game-winning touchdown. So we were coming off a loss there. Then in 2007, my senior day, we lose to Illinois. Juice Williams game. They held the ball for like the last 12 minutes of the game. It was unbelievable. That referee crew actually got reprimanded and suspended by the Big Ten the following week after they pulled some more bullshit in the Indiana versus Purdue game the following week. I mean, literally, like the head of that crew got excoriated and suspended because there were so many questionable calls, and I believe they got linked to a gambling ring shortly after that. So again, am I trying to be a tinfoil hat guy? No. But like sometimes, like when it, if it looks like a skunk and it walks like a skunk and it smells like a skunk, it's probably a skunk. So sometimes, like I just, I'm not that dumb to believe that some of the stuff doesn't still exist in college football officiating. Nevada, a lot of talk about the running back situations on both teams. Blake Corum dinged his knee up. Obviously, you believe that he's playing. I'm sure he'll play. What level of effectiveness? Who knows? And then on Ohio State, we've had this has literally been the strangest year ever for our running backs' health situation between Travion Henderson's plantar fasciitis, Mine Williams' knee scope. We lost Evan Pryor to an ACL early in camp, and we're down to Dallin Hayden, Xavier Johnson, and maybe me and you. I don't know who's gonna be left on Saturday. What are your thoughts on the running back situation? Who does it benefit? Start with Michigan, Blake Corum. What are your thoughts on that situation going into the game?
I think he plays. Again, at what capacity plays? I'm always just assuming he's going to play, and he's going to play at 100%. But for Michigan, they're in kind of a tenuous situation because it's Blake Corum or bust. They've got nothing behind them. The guys behind them are bad. They're bad college running backs. And I think for Ohio State, you've got options. You've got is Mine going to be able to play? Will Trey be able to play? You've got Dallin Hayden, who's playing at a really high level right now, and is perfectly capable of. We're perfectly capable of winning the game with Dallin Hayden in there at running back. And frankly, after him, I throw Xavier Johnson in there, and then you've got Chip. So I think we've got some options to turn it. Michigan does not have other options. Like I said, the guys behind. You've got a one-dimensional Michigan team whose top running back is hurt, and J.J. McCarthy is not a good quarterback. And he's just, he's not a good quarterback. He really struggles throwing the ball downfield, and I just think that it's really setting up for a long day for the Michigan Wolverines offensively. And if Corum's out, if you're right and Corum's out, and I'm wrong, then they're in deep trouble. I think he'll play, but we'll see come Saturday.
Yeah, I think he'll play. I'm sure he'll dress. I'm sure he'll try to give it all he can go. But if he's not at 100%, come on. Last year they had, the reason they beat us is because they absolutely kicked our ass up front. They ran for 400 yards or whatever it was and 9.2 yards a carry in the second half. And Hassan Haskins had 5 touchdowns. If they beat us, it's because they're going to run us over. It's not because they're going to throw it over our head. This is not, in terms of great Michigan teams, this is not a great Michigan team. I know that they've got a fluffy ranking because they've played, an absolute atrocious cupcake loaded schedule. But, in the glory days of Michigan, they had guys like Braylon Edwards, they had guys like Mario Manningham, David Terrell, guys that are first round picks, second round picks, impact guys out wide. They don't have that this year, which is something that, for Michigan, it's kind of shocking that their best receiver is who they have. Because I'm used to when we used to play them, it was like we better stop, Braylon, or we better stop Steve Breston, we better stop Mario Manningham, Jason Avon. They had guys that were NFL guys out wide that were good players, and they don't have that anymore. And it's really weird that Michigan doesn't have a big monster wearing the number 1 jersey out at wide receiver, but it is what they are. They are a running team. They're basically playing a good Wisconsin team anymore in terms of the lack of skill on the edges. So I think that makes them easier to defend. And I think that Jim Knowles is going to have some stuff up their sleeve because I've studied Jim Knowles more than any human being on earth over the last year since we hired him. I've watched more of his clinic tapes. I've watched more of his Oklahoma State scheme. I've seen some of the crazy stuff that he does, and he hasn't done that at Ohio State. And I think that it's largely because he hasn't had to, because we just have better players than everybody that we go against. So you don't have to draw up all kind of exotic stuff. You don't have to out-scheme teams when you can just line up and have better players. Now, this week, we're going to have, not equal talent because we still have better players than Michigan does, but, you're going to have to pull some stuff out. You're going to have to pull out some of this Jack stuff to stop the counter run that he used to do against Oklahoma. You're going to have to pull out some of the stuff that he did against Oklahoma State. He's played, when he was at Duke, and to a lesser degree Oklahoma State, he had to out-scheme teams because he didn't have, when you're Duke and you got to play Florida State and Clemson and NC State, some of these hyper-skilled teams, you can't just roll the ball out like you can at Ohio State when we're playing Purdue and Maryland and all the other turds that are in the Big Ten. So I look for that. I'm going to look for some more exotic stuff. I'm going to look for some more of the Jack stuff. I think that he's been dipping his toe in the water with JT Tuimoloau and Zach Harrison at end with Jack Sawyer playing that Jack position. And I think that is a very difficult matchup for Michigan's running game when they run that correctly. I would love to know what is up with Larry Johnson's defensive tackle rotation because it seems like Mike Hall doesn't even, he plays 10 snaps a game now, and First 5 games of the year, we thought he was going to be a first team All American. Now he's not going to even make All Big Ten. I think Tyleek needs to show up this week. I think we need less Jerron Cage. I think we need some guys that are actually impactful guys. Jerron's a nice kid, too easy to block. He's not an impact guy. He hangs in there okay. He can give you some serviceable reps, but he's not a guy that NFL scouts are going to say, man, look at that guy. Like, they'll do that with Tyleek. They'll do that with Mike Hall. But you got to get some guys in there that are impactful guys that are going to dent the offensive line when they run some of their schemes and push some guys back and basically are just hard to block. So the way I evaluate a D lineman is, are they hard to block? And Jerron's not. So, when you get some of these other guys like Mike and Tyleek and, more JT, more Zach, I think Zach is playing at the best level he ever has. That left tackle from Maryland is a first or second round draft pick, and Zach whooped his ass. And I think that's going to be something that you just got to keep looking at. Zach is really, he's playing for the money now. He's playing for an NFL draft slot, and he's really turning it up. And I look for him to have a big game because he's got a lot of length, good run defender. And I think with Jim Knowles, lighting a fire under a lot of these guys that frankly were a lot softer last year. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he produces. Nevada, give me a couple guys that you're looking forward to seeing versus Michigan this time around, and then we'll get into the film room and break down a little bit of Maryland tape.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, a guy who's kind of an unsung guy that I think we're going to need to have a big effort out of is a guy like Teron Vincent. I think he's been making some plays for Ohio State, but he's going to have to. He's going to have to be a stalwart there on the inside because, as you said, at the end of the day, what Harbaugh's going to do. He's going to line it up and run it at you. He's not going to do anything tricky. He's going to line it up and run it at you. They'll try to throw those little passes to the tight end. They'll try to run some screens. They'll try to do some, but the game is going to be won or lost when they basically line up and can we stop the run. So I'm looking for Teron Vincent to have a big game. And another guy like we talked about a little bit, but I really think we're going to get some run out of him this game is Cody Simon. I think Cody Simon's going to get some looks in that 3 linebacker look that I like so much, especially against run heavy teams. And I think he gives you the flexibility of a guy that can flex out and cover that tight end, cover somebody in the slot, cover that running back coming out on the flare. But I think Cody Simon and Teron are my unsung heroes on the defense, and I'm going to stick on the defense just because I think the game is going to be won or lost by the defense against that Michigan offense, and I think they're going to rise to the occasion and get the job done.
Got it. All right, we're going to go into the film room. This is one of the biggest plays of the game, something me and you've debated. Was JT Tuimoloau offsides here on the snap? We're going to play it in real time. Obviously this is a huge play, affects the play, gets cleaned up by Tommy for a tackle for a loss. Again, I think he got off on the mark. You think he jumped? I mean, I keep watching it. It's really close, but he as soon as that, and I could even go even slower. As soon as that ball moves, he's moving. So, and again, we can agree to disagree on it, but the officials who are obviously far from perfect, I excoriated him earlier in the podcast. They didn't see it. I mean, he's looking right down the line. You have this black line here, which is kind of denotes the line of scrimmage. So, you can kind of see. And it's funny you said, no one else is moving. I was like, well, Zach Harrison, if there's one thing we've been ultra critical on him other than being soft, it's that he's laid off the ball. And he's literally the last guy off the ball here. I mean, you see Dron, you see Teron, everyone else is moving. Zach is almost a full second late. He's still on his stance. Like, it's almost crazy. Like all these other guys, he's still in his stance. Him and Tron are much later than JT. I mean, JT, and this is why JT is going to be a top 10 pick and Zach isn't, is because, it's little stuff like this. But again, this is more an indictment on Maryland because if these guys can get that used to the snap count and get off on the mark like this, that's their fault. They're stupid for not mixing up a count, doing a hard count, doing something because, these guys get into the rhythm of a snap count. And if you don't change the count up at all, then you're just asking to get killed like this. The guard has no chance here. They're running a little play action look, and it just, again, but I don't know. I mean, you say he's offsides. I think he gets off on the mark. Like right there.
Well,
like
to me though, look, on this play, I thought in real time, I thought he was offside. As I've run it back, I thought he was offside. It was a huge play. 20-13 game, big third down. going to sack them out of range. They're punting in that situation. For I think it brings to the other topic though of predictability and tells, and there were some things on the Twitter about, oh, are there tells where Trey Henderson has his mouthpiece out or whatever it is? And that's not, to me, I've gone back and looked at that, and there's nothing to that. But there are certain things that Ohio State is doing right now to tip plays, and we'll talk about it here on this YouTube video. It's Ohio State's welcome to listen to this. I know that they watch all of our stuff. I know that they hear all of our stuff, but you've got your running game tells. I've got my passing game tells. I'll start with mine. What I'll say is I don't think that our wide receivers give off a vibe of being ready to go out to be in a athletic position to be as taught on running plays as they do on passing plays. I think they tip running plays versus passing plays by kind of giving off an air of indifference in their stance out there on the outside. What are your thoughts about that, Mr. Barton?
Yeah, I think, and this is something, if you sit and watch an NFL game, because all these guys are NFL guys, Marvin Harrison Jr. is obviously, grew up in the NFL with his dad playing, a lot of receivers, when they're not the focal point of the play, they're not, the primary guy on the route, they'll get into some of these like lazy cockamamie, it's almost like they're like standing at the free throw line while someone else is shooting a free throw. And you could just tell, I'm like, does that guy look like he's ready to explode out of his stance? And he's got his front leg loaded up, ready to go. And he's in that good, track stance, or is he just like kind of standing up, no bend in his knee, lethargic? Yeah. And again, like it's something that maybe they think that no one will notice, but I've noticed it. I mean, I look at, our tackles, are they up, down, in the run pass game? DeJuan is 6'9", 400 pounds, and he's in the 2-point more than probably any tackle in the history of Ohio State football. And when he's down in a 3-point, is it always a run, or is it always a run or a play action pass? And it's like, when you watch enough Ohio State football, eventually you start to figure some of this stuff out. And then now these guys are all wearing these big Michael Irvin mouthpieces that kind of dangle. And when they don't have it in, does that mean that it's a pass or it's a run? Or if you're a running back, and you have one of those mouth guards in and it's not in your mouth, it's probably not a running play. I'm just telling you, like, if you're about to get sucked, the whole reason you wear a mouthpiece is to prevent a concussion. So if it's out there dangling, they're probably not going to hand you the ball. But again, this is another pass. So I'm looking for a run where these guys are, in their stances, and they just look like they're not coming off the ball. Like, again, like if you're, think about if you're, I don't know how many of our wrestlers ever ran track, or you're down in the blocks, or you're down in a 3-point stance, or like when you run, like, I had to run a 40-yard dash, I had to have like a loaded first step. And, like I'm down in like a 3-point track stance. Like, I wasn't standing straight up in the air with my legs stiff and, leaned back and unathletic, cause again, that doesn't help you come off the ball any faster. So, and again, is it always like that? No. But I mean, I mean, Marv's pretty stiff here, and again, he jogs off the ball, which again, he's Marvin Harrison, can do whatever he wants, but I mean, you could tell that he's not getting ready to go out and hit a release and burn this corner, because he doesn't, he just, you could tell like when these guys are, and again, here it's a little more pronounced that he's a little more engaged, that, because he's actually, going to get the ball here, or potentially get the ball here. He's going to be the primary running this drag route. And CJ dumps it to him. But, it's just little stuff like that. You can look at the stagger of an offensive tackle. A lot of times if a tackle's got his foot further back, it's because he's pass blocking and he needs a little extra help, because frankly, he's not that fast. So he's got to keep his foot back. Here, DeWand, he's in the 2-point, little play action pass. It drives me nuts when these guys are in 2 points when we're play action passing. So I think that you should always be in a 3-point. I think you could always help sell the run a little bit better if you're down in a 3-point as opposed to a 2-point. But that's his preference. Here he's in a 3-point. We're running the ball. Again, down at 1st and goal, you expect to run the ball, but how often is DeJuan in a 3-point when he's pass blocking? Probably 0%, I'd say. So, and he's not in, even when it's a 3rd and 1, he's down in the 2-point a lot. So, there's a lot of tells that you can pick up over the season, and sometimes it's fun just to kind of sit and guess the play because you're watching some of the things that go on, some of the stuff that the guys do, and you say, okay, oh, that looks like a pass because, obviously we're in a 2 point, or with the receivers, it's usually the easy one to tell if it's a run or not because like I said, they'll just be really relaxed in their stances. They're not coming off the ball. They're just kind of out there, bullshitting around with the cornerbacks. They're not really blocking them. They just kind of have like a gentleman's agreement to kind of just stand there and make it look good for the film. But no, it's fascinating when when there's a huge Twitter thread where people say every time that a guy's mouth guard is out, it means it's a pass or a run or whatever. But I don't know. Nevada, what else do you have though? This is a great play by DeJuan here. So this is, and I always think Juan could play. If Juan played as hard and was as nasty as Paris Johnson, he'd probably be the first pick in the draft, but he just doesn't. This is not in his ecosystem. But this is funny when this guy comes to check back on Juan here, and Juan's just sitting here and he's 400 pounds. So it's like he gets, this guy tries to, I don't know what he's trying to do. He runs into Juan and Juan just flattens him with a shoulder. So again, that probably hurt 19's pride a little bit when a guy that big can just elbow you, but that's why you also don't run into guys that big. Which again, it shows you the type of power DeJuan has. And again, I just wish that we saw more of that in the running game because I think that he plays like a gentleman, he plays like a nice kid, and that's not always a great thing. I think he could be a lot more dominant in the running game, given his size and his athletic ability. But he's got a couple more games left to figure that out before he heads to the league. And I think that it's something that if it shows up this week, it would be absolutely fantastic. What do you got, Nevada? That was a long diatribe by me.
Yeah, no, I just look. I think it's the Maryland game. From my standpoint, I thought Ohio State was going to roll, and this is probably the first game that I've really kind of had wrong for Ohio State. And as a better, I was watching the early games roll in, and I was watching TCU struggle, and I was watching Michigan struggle, and I'm thinking to myself, oh man, it's going to be one of those days where all the top teams that you just kind of had a feeling, and sure enough, there were just so many great games that came down to the wire. Top teams falling, top teams kind of surviving late and stuff like that. So I should have known, but no, I took my first L betting Ohio State this year, but I'm feeling really good about the Buckeyes' chances this weekend. I think everything's lining up, beautifully for them, and like, going 11-0 is hard, and I really feel bad for Ohio State fans that get upset or can't enjoy the wonder of an 11-0 season, and I really mean that sincerely. And I think when you expect perfection and you expect every game to be won by 7 touchdowns, and look, I'm as critical as anybody about clock management and about things that we can do differently and about Trey Henderson's play as of late, or Fleming's drops or whatever, or the defensive backs not covering anybody. But you got to take a step back and go, man, we're 11-0, and a lot of really good Ohio State teams did not get to this point of being 11-0. We've got Michigan at home. We're the number 2 team in the country. Everything we want's in front of us, and I just, like I said, I cannot wait for Saturday. I wish that game was being played tonight, but unfortunately we have to wait 6 more days. But that gives us 6 more days to talk about it, and that's kind of fun too. So I'm excited. I can't wait for the game, and I think it's going to be a glorious day for Ohio State. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm telling everybody I'll put my reputation on this one. Ohio State is going to kick Michigan's butt on Saturday. I'm calling it right now, and you can hold me to that one.
I agree. I think that there's just no chance we can lose this game. I think it's not gonna be close. I think that, the combination of losing last year, kind of being the team that broke the streak of consecutive wins, that's hard. The entire program being called soft for an entire year. Again, if you're a football player or a football coach or a head coach, being called soft is literally the worst thing you can be called. And it's been repeated by not just opposing fan bases, but by our fan base. So I mean, it's been a rough year for these guys. They have a chance to make amends for what happened last year. And Ryan Day knew that things had to change. I mean, he literally gave 4 coaches the bullet after that game. He got rid of his offensive line coach, got rid of 3 of his defensive coaches. I mean, like massive changes, new D coordinator, new everything, new defensive scheme. I mean, and this is a team that won the Rose Bowl. They lost 1 game and won the Rose Bowl, and they get rid of half the coaching staff, change the scheme, hardest offseason program in their history with Mick. He knew he had to change because the way we went up there and got smacked, it wasn't acceptable. And Ryan, he voted for captains based on toughness. He looked for leaders that were based on toughness. It was a pretty dramatic change, a radical change. That Michigan team last year wasn't even good. They weren't that good. They played Georgia, they just got absolutely annihilated at the Orange Bowl. But I just wanted to highlight, this is Zach Harrison versus Jalen Duncan. Jalen Duncan, top 5 tackle on Mel Kiper's draft board. There's a miracle chance here. Obviously it's bleak. You're down 6 with 15 seconds to go. But in college football, as we saw this weekend, anything can happen. But Zach shuts the door. Like Edwin Diaz from the Mets is best reliever, best stopper in the game. Zach's been a stopper. He's beaten their best player on offense, their left tackle. Nice move, good long arm move here. Gets past him, gets after the quarterback. Talia Tungavailoa throws it up in the air, steals there to catch the big muffin for the free touchdown. Again, of all the things you think about when you're this contained guy, the spy guy that Steele is, you don't generally think the ball's going to pop up in the air and land right in your arms, a foot away from the end zone. But hey, he's there for it. Big props to Zach. I think Zach has to have the game of his life. I think our ends and our interior guys, they have to have the games of their lives. I think that, the way that the game went last year, we just weren't ready for it in the trenches. I thought we had a lot of guys that turned it down and were soft. And I've been very vocal about that because, it's an old cliche, and I hate cliches, but the toughest team generally wins this game. Like when we went up there, and played them in 05 and 07, we were tougher than they were, and that was something that we always hung our hat on. So we were the blue collar program. They're the wine and cheese program. They're the soft program. They're the entitled program. And so like when they actually flip it on us, then, but I just think that last year's team thought it was going to be easy. They beat Michigan State by 60 points or whatever it was, and Michigan State beat Michigan earlier in the year. So they figure, well, how good could Michigan possibly be if they lost to that Michigan State team that we just destroyed? So, I think there's a lot of lessons that were learned. I think there's a lot of pain in losses. There's a lot of lessons learned in losses. And I think Ryan Day has learned a valuable lesson. And I think that these guys are going to be revved up, ready to go. And we've played fantastic at home this year, which is very comforting. It helps, I think, the players and coaches, know that these guys they've come out ready to go against Notre Dame, against Wisconsin. You get going early, you get up 21-0 or whatever, 21-7, you get that crowd going. It makes it really tough on Michigan. I think, the goal is, obviously you want to score a lot early, but you get up 14 or 21-0, man, it's going to be real hard for Michigan, a team that can't throw the ball to stay in that game, because they're a lot like Wisconsin, a lot like Michigan State, where if you get ahead of them and they don't have a throw game, they don't have a quarterback, they don't have the skill guys, it's impossible. It's like playing Navy almost. It's like once you get ahead of them, they can't just run the ball and they're going to run out of time. There's not enough time on the clock when you have to run the ball 60 times to be competitive with Ohio State. So any final closing thoughts, Nevada? We're going to be doing a ton of podcasting this week, a ton of breakdowns, ton of stuff to get us ready for the game. Any final thoughts as we close this down and head on to the Ask the Insiders premium board on BuckeyeScoop.com?
No, I just think it's it's very few times in life that you have a chance to kind of rewrite a story. And for the Ohio State football players, they've had a year to kind of live with what happened last year up in Ann Arbor, and they can erase all that. They can erase all the pain. They can erase all the insults. They can erase all the trash talk. They can take it all away by taking care of business on Saturday. And that's very rare in life that you get do-overs. But Ohio State gets a do-over. They get a do-over in the friendly confines in Columbus in front of 105,000 people, or however many people are going to jam in there. And it's like I said, you don't get any chances in life to do it over. Ohio State's going to get a chance, and I think they're going to take advantage of it in a big way. And it's going to be a great time on Saturday. And for Ohio State fans, I think we're we're probably going to see something that we haven't seen in a long time there in terms of run day, taking it to somebody physically, taking them on both sides of the ball physically, and just dominating the game from beginning to end. And I think it's going to be a big Ohio State victory.
Yeah, I mean, last time we saw him in the shoe was 18. It was the biggest victory in Ohio State history. Urban Meyer's last game, it was 62 to whatever. And I don't know if it'll get that high because I don't know if we're gonna throw it like we did with Dwayne that year, but it could be one of those. It doesn't have to be close. There's nothing in the rules that says it has to be a close game. So I'm going to lock this thing down. As always, we appreciate you guys. Get to my button. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Thank you guys for tuning in. BuckeyeScoop.com is the #1 premium website for inside Ohio State information. We have a ton of stuff going up over the course of the week to get you guys ready to beat Michigan. So if you guys enjoyed this, please leave us a like, comment which player needs to step up to beat the mighty Michigan Wolverines. Log on to BuckeyeScoop.com, the #1 website for Ohio State insider information. I'm telling you guys, once you get on there, it's hard to get off because it's really fun. We got a great community, thousands of the smartest and most intelligent Ohio State fans. We talk football, we talk about life, talk about business. I mean, we have a very eclectic group, very sharp group. Very proud of our community. It is a clean board. It is a fun board. There are no politics involved. It is a sanctuary for many, including myself. So I'd love for you guys to join our crew. BuckeyeScoop.com, also a fantastic Christmas gift for yourself, for a spouse, for a mom, dad, whoever is a huge Buckeye fan in your life. Think about giving the gift to BuckeyeScoop.com. We work every day of the year, and it is a blast every day of the year. So we appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks, beat Michigan.